Okay. Welcome to Before Welcome to Before After Omu. Today we are going to talk about Omu's efforts to register as a religion and touch on Tenrikyo, another religion which influenced Omu. I'm Atsushi Sakahara, a filmmaker based in Kyoto, Japan, and I'm a survivor of sarin gas attack 1995.
I'm Pearl Chan. I'm a film and birth worker based in Hong Kong.
Before we start today, I want to ask you to please rate and review our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen. We work very hard on bringing you the truth about this terrible cult and Shoko Asahara. Please support us with a few minutes of your time. Thank you. As with the last few episodes, our research relies heavily on the work on Fumihiko Takayama's book, Birth of Asahara, Asahara Shoko no Tanjo in Japanese, which has not been translated from Japanese.
以上の措置をもって時局を収集せんとほし。
If you are a victim, you're a victim. You're not a journalist.
そうですね、来るべきものが来てるんじゃないでしょうか。
Picking up from our last episode, which was based in 1986-87, when he traveled to India, meeting Dalai Lama and Pilot Baba, Om Shinrikyo didn't gain recognition in Japan as a religion until 1989. For a long time, it operated as a yoga dojo instead of a religion. It is hard to tell how hard he was thinking ahead. We know he told Nishiyama that he had started a religion in Shibuya and that he had wanted to because it gave him a sense of power, he thought, equal to his first ambition to become a politician. But it was cheaper to become a religious leader. But despite what he wanted, he advertised Omu initially as a yoga studio, and perhaps with the exception of his core group of followers, this is what other members believed.
While it was still a small yoga studio in Shibuya, before his travels to India and before expanding into Setagaya and Osaka, he had gone to meet a private investigator named Mekawa.
By the way, for your information, my deceased father knew Mekawa.
Oh, really? Why?
In
How?
person. Why? Because Mekawa used to be a police in Kyoto. And then also, while he was running his office, he was working as a administrative scrivener. Is that how you pronounce administrative paperwork for government?
And so your dad
and
knew
my father
him.
was doing through those work. They were the members of some association. And then
Small
my father
circles.
knew his daughter too very well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Mekawa is quite well-known guy for his advertisement with the picture.
Oh, really? What's it like?
He uses a photo of himself like how do you say mugshot? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
You know what?
As if he were the
uses
criminal?
the photo and with his forehead is bald and it's very criminal shot in the newspaper and in the stations once in a while. So we knew. And then once I talked about him to my father, I knew him because I know him, because we are in the same association.
That's funny.
Yeah. He's very well-known guy at the time. Now I don't see his advertisement, but maybe he deceased or he retired,
Yeah, maybe he retired from his
Very old
retired job. He's probably very old. Is he close with your father in age? Or younger?
Yeah, must be. So my father, this is 95, so... right? So it should be closer. Or a little younger, maybe, but, 85, 90, something like that.
Yeah.
If he's around,
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, in the spring of 1984, Shoko Asahara arrived at the Mekawa's office without an appointment and introduced himself using his birth name Chizuo Matsumoto. he told him, I want to start a religion. Can you research Tenrikyo? He found this odd because his usual clients were individuals looking for information on business partners or spouses but this was very unusual. Mekawa told him it would cost $2,000 for the job. Asahara said he only had 200 on him and gave him that as an advance.
So now I want to talk a little bit about the religion Tenrikyo. Tenrikyo was founded by a woman named Miki Nakayama. Miki Nakayama was born in 1798 in the city that would then become Tenri in Nara. Both her and her husband's family were of the farming class, but seemed quite prosperous, acting as hereditary village chiefs. She was married in 1810 at the age of 12, and her first son was born 11 years later, in 1821, after which she had 5 daughters, 3 of whom survived. Her youngest daughter, Kokan, was born a month before her revelation, and pretty much from the moment on was trained to be her successor. In 1837, when she was 39 years old, her son had this sudden leg pain that wouldn't go away. So after several unsuccessful doctor visits, the family invited an ascetic monk to perform a healing ritual, and when he asked Miki to be his medium, because the person who normally was his medium just wasn't there that day, Miki had what was her first revelation, in which she said, quote, I am God of origin, God in truth. There is causality in this residence. At this time I have descended here to save all humankind. I wish to receive Miki as a shrine of God. And then her family basically made excuses for 3 days before finally giving in. Her first miracle, was a form of faith healing called Grant of Safe Childbirth, which she first gave to her daughter when she was pregnant, and then after that it was requested by other women in the village. So the founding of Tenrikyo is actually kind of irrelevant to our current story, and so I don't really want to spend too much time because it is really fascinating. A lot of it is really fascinating, but I really actually wanted to touch on a few things in particular. The first, that it was ultimately started by a woman, and you can see this because her first miracle is the importance of safe childbirth. She herself had miscarriages and 2 daughters die young, and so you can see what the priorities of this sort of religion are. And second, it was a largely family affair. Miki had a revelation because her son was sick, and her husband accepted the calling on her family's behalf, and her youngest daughter was groomed from the earliest days to take over. Her daughter eventually served as a junior guru and was second to her mother even as a teenager. Her mother encouraged her daughter to never marry and to stay single, but her daughter actually did really want to get married, and so her daughter did get married, and yeah, there's a whole story there. But anyways, it's really inside the family. So we know that Shoko Asahara loved his children, and for him, religious practice was full time as well. So for him, it was not really possible to renunciate, say, to like Agon Shu, because it was not possible to both be a renunciate and to play with his kids, and playing with kids were very important for him. And so sometimes I think about it like he set up Om Shinrikyo so he could devote himself to religious practice without losing his family. What do you think of that, Tsushi? Do you think it's like so
it's
that
like,
he
it's
can...
like because he is creating his own dynasty within the the religion, so he can do whatever he wants to do with it, playing with the kids, and that's the approach he took, right?
Yeah, whereas if you join someone else's religion, like, you don't get to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just because you have to become one of the believers, right? So
yeah, and also his kids took on varying degrees of responsibilities within the religion as well, right?
Yeah, the responsibility or maybe a power, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were quite young, but also so, he also had mostly daughters. Same with Miki.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Anyways.
Also, from the maybe, I don't know where they are, but I know that they have some kids from the different mother, right? So that's why I don't know, but it's like a dynasty. It's like a story of dynasty. Or,
Yeah, like you don't
within
hear.
the Om.
Yeah, there's other children, but they must have had like a better position, like a superior position, right?
Right. Yes. The authentic or Tomoko's kids have must have a very good position, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, compared to,
yeah.
like some like Hisako Ishii's kids, but also like any other random member's child.
Sure, of course, totally different.
Yeah.
It's like holy kids, right? It's sort of,
Yeah, and he could only do
Because of
that
the
if
blood,
he was leading the religion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, skipping ahead a whole bunch. Tenrikyo was prosecuted by the Japanese government because only Buddhism, Shintoism, and Christianity were viewed as established religion. Tenrikyo wasn't a part of any those religions, but did share similarity to all three. The 1870s were a decade of persecution, and the organization tried to become recognized. Finally, in 1888, they were established as a Shinto church, whereby they, as we discussed in our first episode about state Shintoism, had to adhere to state Shinto requirements. It's not until after World War II that they were able to be known separately from Shinto. The history of persecution may have been another reason for Shoko Asahara's interest in Tenrikyo.
Yeah, and we can see the same sort of veins, right? Because Om Shinrikyo isn't recognized as a religion. He goes to the Dalai Lama to have it recognized as a Buddhist religion. He's told basically by his office that like, well, there's some Buddhism here, but there's some Hinduism here, so we respect you as like a studier, as like a student of Eastern religions, but we don't really call this Buddhism. And so he's rejected in a way from sort of like he's rejected from being a Buddhist organization. And then of course there's also the beginnings of persecution, and of course he personally has experienced sort of mishaps at the hand of police as well. And so I can see him trying to form Om into the mold of Tenrikyo, like trying to see these little very, very slight very, very slight similarities and trying to relate, right? And so finally, in 1954, in the town Miki was born in, the city of Tenri was established in Nara. And so this is where Detective Mekawa went to research the organization, and this is what he found there.
Asahara contacted Mekawa in the 1984 spring. Mekawa finished the research in one day. He went to Tenri City in Nara, which was an hour away. The area was bombed in World War II, and after the war, it was formed as a city after Tenrikyo built its headquarters there. He found that Tenri was very clean, and everyone worshipped the Tenrikyo guru, Miki Nakayama. There was a city hall there, but since everybody was a believer of Tenrikyo, all politicians were Tenri. There were schools from kindergarten to university, all abiding by Tenrikyo belief. So a week after the request, Mekawa gave Shoko 2 20-minute tapes he had recorded on his finding, and then Shoko says to him, "I don't have the money on me. Later a follower will send you the money." Mekawa gives him an envelope for the remainder of the fee, but he actually never pays him.
It's so cheap.
Also, so cheap, yes. Also, in either his first or second visit, he asked Mekawa for his advice on the name for his new religion. Mekawa advised something like Anrikyo, Indikyo, Onrikyo, Aiueo in Japanese alphabet. Something started with vowel and following the idea of Tenrikyo. finally they settled on Shinrikyo. You know,
Atsushi,
you know what?
can you tell me what Tenrikyo and Shinrikyo means in Japanese?
Tenrikyo is a ten. Ten means like a sky, meaning like something like a god or divine power, right? That's we tend to believe, right? So Ri is a logic, Kyo is a thought, and so Tenrikyo is divine powers, logic, and then thought. If you translate it straight, Shinrikyo is a true, right? Shin means true, Ri means logic. True logic thought. That's the or teach. That's the Shinrikyo. And you know what? Maybe it is not hard to imagine what the Tenrikyo is like in Japan. I know Tenrikyo very well. Last year I visited the headquarters too.
Why? How do you
This
know
is
it so well?
coincidence. How do I know? My mother's older sister was higher up in Tenrikyo once. She deceased. But and then some of my close friends, okay, who are very supportive in many ways, is a member of Tenrikyo. And he's old guy. I used to work for him as a part-time when I was a college student. He runs his own electrician business, you know.
Were they born into it or did they choose it?
I think he's about 70. He chose to be like that. He joined it when he was young. They are nice, very, very nice people. And it's very scary clean, you know. When you visit the Tenrikyo, scary clean.
Yeah.
No cigarette on the street. So clean. So I wish I could have one or two volunteers from them, you know, to clean up my room, you know, once in a while. But also, it is hard.
That's like my experience of Japan, you know. I go to Japan, I'm like, oh, it's so clean. And then you go to Tenri and you're like, oh, it's so clean.
It's scary. Nothing, no trash on the street at all. So it's so clean. You will be surprised. And then to have a sense of what the Tenrikyo is like in Japan, you know, Tenri University is known for a producer of the gold medalist judo athlete. Many gold medalist judo athletes are from Tenri universities.
Really?
You know? You don't know, right? Yeah. It's very well known. Like a 3-time gold medalist Nomura is from Tenri. And many are from.
Do you think that's the other reason why Shoko Asahara was interested? Because of judo?
I think you have a point. Maybe he knew. Yeah, maybe he knew through judo. You know, maybe they were. Mm-hmm. Maybe in that way he had a respect to Tenri. You know.
Yeah,
that
like
makes sense. You know.
Yeah, maybe he had known about it for a long time, but he never joins them.
Also,
right? Like I wonder
but
why. Like he joins Agonshu.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, because you know many good judo players from Tenri.
Yeah, he should have just gone there.
I saw the dojo too.
Judo player.
Yeah, it's very clean dojo. And also, it's quite interesting. Tenri is known for a very strong high school baseball team too.
Really?
Yeah, they have a purple like a color, some shirt and white, of course, white uniform, right? So in Japan, it's quite interesting. If you come to summer or spring, they have a high school baseball championship, right? In Koshien is a very big baseball stadium near Kobe, okay, or Osaka, in between. And like Enryakuji is one of the oldest Buddhism temple, and they also have a high school. They are known for the baseball team too. So they play against each other. It's fun for us. It's always we try. I'm quite aware. I'm not believing in any religion, but that's why we can make fun of them. Meaning So one Buddhist sect is praying for the winning. And the Tenrikyo is also.
Yeah.
And another school is known for PL. PL is a perfect liberty. That's another somewhat related to Shintoism. They have a very strong high school team, so they play against each other. It's very fun to see for us, As a sort of PR, They tried to have a very strong baseball team. That's how they want to be recognized in Japan.
Yeah, because it's a lot more approachable than like give us all your money and your
And
soul.
also, they never, as far as I know, okay, they never try to rip off people. That's what good religion is about. And also, they try not to cut the tie among the family, right? That's key.
I mean,
That's
these
very
are
important.
like obviously they miss the mark on a lot of the characteristics that make a cult. So, yeah. Okay, so Shoko Asahara took these like 40 minutes that Mekawa made for him, just like 40 minutes of information, and he turned it into a blueprint for what would become his Japan Shambhala plan, which was an Om Shinrikyo Utopia. His idea of Shambhala is a country where the guru himself, Asahara, is the protector and truth of the universe. He elaborates on this further in the newsletter, Shambhala. He elaborates on this further in the newsletter as saying that Shambhala was a place they imagined that would be fully equipped, cradle to grave. So imagine you listen to like a 40-minute podcast about the founding of like Salt Lake City, and then you decide to create your own religious city. Like, that's how much information he had on Tenrikyo when he started his Japan Shambhala plan. Like, it's not very much. I mean, the thing is, like, with Mekawa, is like, I kind of understand why he only paid him $200 if he only did one day of work. Like, I kind of get it.
Right. So I can go. Actually, I can maybe do a better than Mekawa.
Yeah, like, you can,
I know some people
will, like,
there,
Shoko
right?
Asahara pay you more? Like, it's just, like, I don't know if he did that great of a job, but, like, if that's all he had to like make this like Japan Shambhala plan, it's like no wonder he didn't do very well.
The name Tenrikyo came from years ago, but in 1987 he brought up the idea of renaming the organization in preparation of applying to be a religious organization. A follower whose name is given as Saito said the Saito is a fictional name,
Mm-hmm.
And one summer day in 1987, we discussed applying to be a religious entity.
So I don't know if we told people this, but Saito is the person who we based that episode on, the drama episode on. We based it on his experience. So this is more of his story.
That's right. And he used to be, I think, in Nagoya or somewhere, the branch manager. He was a high-ranking executive, but trying to protect his identity, he used a fictitious name, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, one summer day in 1987, we discussed applying to be a religious entity legally and change the name. Some people did not understand the meaning this would have, and others felt against it because we only wanted to practice yoga. But we couldn't say that to Shoko Asahara. Asahara suggested Tenrikyo. Hisako Ishii said it was a good idea. That's a deadly team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The others were non-committal, and the name was not concluded on that day. The next day, Shoko announced that Tenrikyo was the will of the god Shiva. So it was renamed Om Tenrikyo.
Saito, at the time around this name change, was working in an administrative position at the Setagaya dojo. And so when this change happened, he was flooded with emails and phone calls and letters from members who declared they were leaving. Some of these people were actually believers of Sokoga Kai and Agun Shu, and they joined for the yoga and the meditation, but they didn't recognize Om as a religion per se. So because of this, about a third of the members left. Saito brought this up with Shoko Asahara, saying, a lot of people are leaving us. Is that okay? Shoko Asahara didn't seem upset about this. It's as if he knew it would happen. He said, there's nothing we can do. But to another follower, he said, now I don't have to worry about them stealing my practice.
Yeah,
super paranoid.
Right, he's paranoid, and I don't know, maybe he genuinely believes what he has is something worth.
Stealing.
Right?
I mean, he's just...
I don't know, he is confused about...
But I mean, the thing is, like, we have to recognize that he is like he's a pretty experienced yogi at this point, right? Like, it's not like yoga is something he doesn't understand. He might not understand Buddhism, he might not understand like Hinduism, he might not understand a lot of the theories, but it seems like yoga is something he can actually do. But this idea of stealing my practice is like, I don't know. It's just, I wonder when this paranoia started. Like, do you think it's linked with the police? But yeah, it's like, this paranoia is starting, but I don't really know why.
Why? But it's still, we can, I personally believe that this moment already started in the process of believing something illusion. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe paranoia, you know. He is going to be insane, to be insane in the process now. So, this was 1980. The story I'm going to tell you is like 1987 December, 6 months before Omu announced Japan Shambhala plan. 3 years after Asahara had Mekawa to do research on Tenrikyo. He had a follower who had his own project of building so-called the Lotus Village. He was a successful agricultural businessman who had 1.5 hectare land in the mountain with a lodge for this purpose. After a while, he bought another, 4 hectares of land, and he planned the Lotus Village town. And he joined Omu. And Omu said, we also have the same plan. And the Omu executive began pressuring him to join them as renunciate, and then, signing, giving up all the land and then donate them to Omu. Can you believe, something
I mean, it's
about...
kind of funny, right? It sounds like it's like he has a plan, and then Om is like, oh, we have the same plan. And you look at Om's plan, and all they have is the title.
Right. And then you have to give it to us, right? Cannot believe the logic. And then, of course, and he realized Om had somehow, it's, trustworthy. And he decided to leave the Om, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when he said, I want to leave the Omu, Omu says, by the way, already we registered your land and property under our name, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should buy them back. So this was a fraud, the Omu used, in Japan, if you have a land ownership certificate and some chopstick, you can do whatever you want to do, basically. So without having him to realize the whole truth, and Omu basically took his property over. But and then he sued Omu for fraud. And in 1996, after Saringas attack was 1995. 1 year after that, he won the case, and he got his property back. And around the time, since that maybe we can cover in the next episode, and around the time, now they have an objective, right, to raise fund. They want to create a Shambhala. So they started very expensive service to the believer called blood initiation.
Oh, I
having
was
a
gonna get
people
into it next
to
time when
do-
we talk about scams. Like we were gonna do a whole episode.
Okay,
on
okay. So
scams.
we don't go. Okay, so you can cut off right before. Okay.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, so just like
Yeah.
let everyone know, we're gonna talk about scams.
Yes, that is. I think this is a moment that Omu become a criminal group.
Right, it became something
Sort
that,
of.
like, in order to achieve its goals, had to do these things to raise money, including what we'll talk about next time with blood initiation. So I was actually looking at the number of members between like Tenrikyo and other new religions and new religions, so Shinsukyos. I was looking at the numbers between like Tenrikyo membership versus Shinrikyo membership, and even at the height in Japan, had 10,000 members. Tenrikyo had millions.
Yeah, much bigger. Yes.
Yeah, but had a lot of money, right? And it's about how active and sort of committed the core members were, and it seemed like it was a really all or nothing kind of religion, right? And you kind of see that when Asahara is like, oh, they can leave if they want, because then he'll focus his attention on the ones that stay. And this is what you learn when you do like newsletter marketing, or when you do there's a lot of talk right now of like things like Patreon. You only need like 1,000 people who are supporting you, or 100 people who are actively supporting you, to make it a sustainable enterprise. And is an incredible example of that, right? Like 10,000 people. That's all they needed, all they had.
Yeah. Yeah, they pay for nothing, right?
Yeah.
To you. That's a good news. I wish I could have those.
Yeah, should start a cult.
That's good news, Unbelievably good business.
Mm-hmm.
Once I said that too. On top of that, they don't have to pay tax too, right? What a good business. Yeah, I think someone said, because I went to business school, right, for graduate education. Running a religious entity is ideal for any management people. Right? You don't have to pay anything. They give money, right?
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary An Ant Fights Back? It's a documentary. It's a Japanese documentary about a man who works for a company called the Ant Movers. Do you know what I'm talking? Is there a moving company in Japan that has ants as like a logo?
Really, I don't know. Okay, so what is that for? What is that?
He basically he crashed one of his company's cars, and his company told him he had to pay for it, and he was really upset because he couldn't afford it, and so he ends up saying I won't pay, and he joins a union, and so he fight back against the company, and it's really interesting because I think Japan is very the working environment is very harsh, and it's not conducive to labor rights. And so, yeah, but this guy really, really fought back. Anyway, it's just really an interesting documentary that you might enjoy.
I see. Japan is you mentioned that the union, right? I don't like union too.
Really? Why?
I don't like. Union is a group of morons, I can tell.
Why?
They're not. Because I once, I tell you, 2000, I think that was 3.
Mm-hmm.
March 19th, the previous day of anniversary of the Saringas attack. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In Ginza, I was working, right? Because that was the previous day of the Saringas survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ginza is a big city, is known for the Omu attack, right? Near Kasumigaseki. I was walking. Stupid union leader is shouting about Saringas, something like that with the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was U.S. bombing Iraq or something,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then don't yell at that, in that location on that particular day, right? I was very angry. And I was reacted maybe because of PTSD.
Yeah.
But I met him in person
Mhm.
2 weeks after, and I had a coffee. I realized that he is not well educated. I understand the freedom of speech, but you can think about the TPO, when and where you mentioned that, right? For some people, such a lot of people working, For example, when was it? 911, right?
Yeah.
If you talk about September 10th and you talk about the bombs and etc., people would be upset, right?
Yeah.
Same thing, when you can talk, but you should be considerate, right? And then he never understands what I'm saying.
Well, Atsushi,
And
that's
I
one
don't
person.
quite-
That's one person. You shouldn't just say that they're all morons, right? Like, and also what he was protesting had nothing
Yeah.
to do with labor rights. And if anything,
Right.
like Japan really needs.
I cannot generalize just one person, but he is the one of the leader, highest person in Tokyo. Really. When I contacted him, he said that
Well,
I'm
Atsushi,
busy.
like-
his assistant of
Atsushi, like, look who's running America.
yeah. It's hard to pronounce his name. Yeah, but I understand. I understand. But when I met him, I realized that the left wings are not sophisticated, intelligent. Also,
That one guy, Atsushi, that one guy was not sophisticated.
No. Another thing is though, I talked to the guy, former communist member, not the union guy, but close to, of course, he's a former communist member, attorney who runs the NPO, and I explained the situation about the post effect, and he says like, I know because I have a depression. That's the left wings in Japan. I really don't really.
Again, why do you find these idiots? Where are you looking? And also,
They are in power. They are in power. That's stupid things in Japan. They are in power. And they are the one who has a voice to be, not to be neglected, It was like, some people must be smart. And then he called up the leader of the Social Democratic Party, and then they did a great job. They did nothing. They did nothing. See, those people. I am trying to contact so many people, and nobody really listens, But anyhow.
do you have better luck when you're talking to the right wing?
I won, yeah. And then I had good luck. I met one politician from Democratic Party. Atsushi, I'm going to talk about it in the Congress. Write a memo. But he doesn't understand. That's okay, I understand. I don't think he is not incapable. I don't think he is incapable. He is capable, I think. He says like, I was preparing, but it put so much pressure, right, to write it as for victim. And then, that of the stupid communist member, former communist member, attorney, took the project away from me since I was bored of that NPO.
Mm-hmm. Since you were what?
And then, not only for me. Huh?
Since you were what of the NPO?
I was a board member of the NPO.
What's the NPO?
Because NPO, non-profit organization,
Oh, I see.
called the Recovery Support Center. And then they say, since you are a board member, in Japan, it's a protocol to seek, because I have that status, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just told them I'm going to talk to the political leader, Seiji Maehara from the Democratic Party. He's going to read my memo in the Congress. We need some better plan to help the victims. And then I, as a board of directors, I I shared that information with the NPO. NPO, the leader is a former communist member, the close friend of the Socialist Party, Social Democratic Party, Mizuho Fukushima. She's very recognized politician. And then they say that, okay, it's going to be a standoffish for Maehara, and we take care, don't worry. And he took it. And then that moron told me that I know what the post effect is because I experienced the depression. Can you believe? Those are the old idiots. I hope someday I want to meet an intelligent left wing. I really want to. But they are the idiots,
I'm pretty left wing.
Really? I'm
pretty left wing.
I know. So you're not Japanese, and that you are not in the politics, right?
No, I'm not a Japanese politician.
Right. You're not. If you are, I wish I could have you as a Japanese politician. But Japanese politicians and attorneys are so moron. I am a left wing too. How stupid the Japanese left wings are. Sadly.
No, Atsushi, it's like, how stupid are your politicians, okay? It's not left wing. I'm sure your right wing politicians are also stupid.
Yeah, okay. So let me rephrase it exact good way. How stupid Japanese left wing politicians and then attorneys.
Okay. We'll take that for now.
like the one who just ran for the office of the mayorship in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's another stupid one. His name is Kenji Utsunomiya. Mm-hmm. He also runs the organization for the victims.
Mm-hmm.
He is the stupidest person I can imagine.
Really?
Among humans.
Really?
Yes. I would tell that too, yes.
Yeah. I don't think it's a matter of stupidity or not. I think it's like incentives and capitalism and and greed, essentially.
That's very true. Mm-hmm. And I should say that too. And then I really agree because I am a student of economics and some social science, right?
Yeah, and we can actually see that. We can see that back with Shoko Asahara, right? Like I don't think he's inherently evil because it's so easy to say, oh, he's evil. No, he's greedy and he's traumatized and he's incredibly greedy and selfish, right? And so, so
you have a point. You know why the subway gas attack victims are neglected in Japan?
Why?
We don't live in the same electorate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who pays attention to? No one. No politicians, right? Because they don't care.
I also don't think that the accessibility laws are very strong in Japan, by which I mean like disability rights. They're not very strong. Like the Japanese.
That's very correct.
Yeah, it's very hard to understand.
Also,
it's a very traditional understanding of different abilities.
That's right. And then also usually, if you are a member of the Soka Gakkai, right? And you form a group of maybe victims, and then Soka Gakkai has a politician. They listen to you because you're a member, right? I am the I don't belong to any group like that too, right? I'm quite independent. I'm quite alone in that sense. So nobody really listens. That's another thing, But anyhow, I will find a way to make things better later. After I release my film, I will do that,
Ganbatte.
We will see. Thank you. I will do. Thank you.
Okay, so
I will do,
Yeah, so for the next episode, we're going to talk about Aum Shinrikyo's continued pursuit of being granted religious status, as well as scams, like their various ways of getting money. All very exciting. There's going to be blood. Okay, so please listen and subscribe wherever you listen. Review and ratings help other people find us. Thank you for listening. Reach out to us on Twitter at BeforeAfterOmo.